Hey guys, Fox here, and today it is time to finally talk about my experience at the 2024 UFL Championship game. I know a lot of you have been asking about exactly how my experience was. I talked about it for weeks that I was going to this game after a couple of months of not knowing for sure if I was going to be able to do it, and even then some stuff came up where it made it really hard to get to the game, but I still managed to get there, and so today we're going to be talking about my experience at the game. Going over everything, was the game as bad as people said it was? Was the attendance as bad as people said it was? How was the atmosphere? How was just being in St. Louis and all that? So, pretty much just to get started, naturally, I'm going to show pictures and videos on the side during this whole time, that I took during it. But overall, I would say that in terms of what I did was not a ton, naturally. The fact is, I'm not one of those guys who really does a lot of stuff when I go to a place. And by that, I mean, like, for St. Louis, the only thing that really was somewhat interesting was going to the Arch. And that was mainly because my friend that I went with had never been there because I had been there before. So aside from going to the Arch, there really wasn't anything I ended up doing in St. Louis. Just because again it was a very long drive, got there like Saturday morning on like no sleep. So basically just stayed in the hotel all of Saturday, then Sunday, went out to the Arch, went out to the game, and that was pretty much it. Now, as for my overall experience at the game, I did go to the Fan Fest a little bit. I didn't go there a ton. I kind of regret not doing the Army thing because I'm pretty sure you were getting like free Battlehawks merch and all that. But I ended up not doing that just for some reason. But I did get some merch and all that. FanFest was a cool experience. I wasn't there whenever Kurt Warner was supposed to be there. I don't know when he was or what the deal was, but I mean, it was a experience. You had, the like hotel sponsorship that UFL has there, trying to give out free merch if you bought a like 3-night stay at a hotel for them and something like that. A bunch of other stuff. I did actually meet a fan of the channel. I met Tyler Bone at the game, talked for like probably like 15-20 minutes, mainly about the Battlehawks and how terrible Bruce Gradkowski is at his job. But overall, I mean, the pregame was pretty much that. I mean, was at the Fan Fest outside. It was really hot out, and then when you go into a dome, I'd never been into a dome for like a football game. Naturally I'd been to like a Hurricanes game, but not for a football game. So much better inside than outside. If that game was outside, literally nobody would have showed up. So went inside, easy thing, and got to our seats. Was sitting in that, front-ish section at the 50-yard line. Saw a bunch of people. I saw guys like XFL Jim, Ace, Luke Miller, all pretty much. Like XFL Jim was like, I don't know, 15 seats to my left. Ace was like 3 sections to my right. I hope that I did that right in the camera. Then, I don't think I did, but... And then, of course, guys like Luke Miller, James Larson were on the field. And I know there was a bunch of other big personalities at the game that just weren't there, but... So it was cool just seeing people, but overall, kind of just, sat in my area, just watched stuff, Saw a bunch of people complain about, the Birmingham fans that were at the front row, who had the signs and all the beats and stuff. But that was pretty much the pregame stuff. And as for the pregame, or the last of the pregame stuff, I mean, there's not really much to say. I mean, it was just, went to my seat, kind of just sat there, waited, saw stuff get posted online and all that. Did get my photo taken, which I will be putting that up probably right now, where I got my picture taken by Michigan Panthers PR person and ended up being shown on the UFL's Twitter and I think Instagram. I didn't check about some of the fans that were at the game since I was one of the few guys, repping the Panthers there. So that was a cool thing to do. It was definitely a cool experience to be there with that. And I kind of am glad I brought this jersey instead of the Maulers jersey, which I was actually debating on doing. So glad I did that. That was a really cool thing to see. But that pretty much does it for the pregame, except for the fact that I did finally get something else for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. I did get 2 of these rally towels. I got one for myself and one for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. Yes, the tag is cut off because of stuff I ended up washing it and all that. So I did have that as a new thing added to the giveaway. So if you aren't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. But on to the game. It was as bad as everybody says it was. That was definitely the worst game of the season. I think it's pretty hard to see a game that was worse than it. Spoiler alert for my tier list video about the playoff games, which will come out sometime next week. I got a bunch of videos coming out. I'm trying to space them out, but not space them out too much. But yes, this was one of the worst games just in modern spring football history, dating back to the 2019 AAF, especially dating back to the 2022 USFL season. This is a bad game. Like, to the point where it made me want to make a tier under F for this game, because it was just that bad. Like, the first half was basically teams doing nothing. Yes, it was some great defensive play, but the fact is that once you had that score at, like, the end of the second quarter by Birmingham, it was basically over from there. After that, Birmingham scored again right after, halftime when they got the kickoff. Then, of course, the Brahmas fumbled, and the Stallions scored again, and it was just bad. And yes, the Chase Garber slide, I know he did like a couple times with the slide, which we all know about, was just as bad as it looked on TV on person, if not even worse. It was just, I mean, it was clear that he was nowhere near the line to gain and he just slid for no reason. Yeah, it was a yikes moment. The Marquette King halftime performance was a halftime performance. I wouldn't say it was as bad as I was expecting it to be, but it was still, an NFL slash UFL player rapping at, halftime. So take that with that what you will. It was something else. But the point is that the overall game was definitely pretty poor. I mean, and look, it's not even like the 23 USL Championship game was a tight-knit battle, but even that one was a lot closer than this game. The fact is, at least the Maulers put up points, and at least the Maulers had a couple big plays, even though the biggest one, the fumble recovery got called back. This was not a good game to watch. I mean, the best way to view it is it's hard to not judge it with a little bit of, bias considering the fact that, I drove 13 hours to watch the game. But it's one of those things where if you had told me, like, if this was just a football game, no way in hell am I driving 13 hours for that. It was the championship game. I can now say I've been to every UFL championship game, this United Football League, which is cool. But man, this is a bad way to end the season. I know I've talked about it before, but for this to be the final game of the season, to be the most viewed game of the season, it was a bad one. It was a bad way to end the season. And then, of course, the atmosphere and the crowd, it wasn't all that great. I mean, like, early on, it actually, like, pre-game, I feel like the atmosphere was actually better than during the game, which, again, not really saying much considering the fact you went from it being a shutout to, like, halftime where people had already left and all that. But pre-game, the atmosphere was actually pretty good considering how few people actually showed up. But once the game started, it was pretty much dying down. That's coming from a guy who was at one of the more rowdy sections in the entire stadium. It definitely wasn't a great crowd atmosphere, definitely. And again, the 23 USL Championship game wasn't even all that great, but there was at least moments. Like, I still remember the pop the crowd had when, the Stallions fumbled the ball and Saga, I believe it was Olive who ended up almost getting that TD. I still remember how crazy the crowd was when that happened. There was, like, no moment like that for this game. Was it because a bunch of fans there weren't a fan of either team? Yes. Was it because the overall stadium was pretty empty? Yes. But you still expected more of an overall crowd reaction. So, yeah. Now, if you can't already tell, I would say that the 23 USL Championship game was a better overall experience. It was a better game, it was in a better place. No offense to St. Louis, it's just that in terms of stuff I do, I'd rather go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and drive, like half an hour to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame than go to, like, the Arch. It's just, the reason I think Canton's such a good place isn't because necessarily the stadium, it's because of all the places around it. Though at the same time, again, if that heat was at that game, oh my god, that'd have been terrible. That's the best part of it being in a dome. The fact is that I think that the overall Canton experience was a bit better. The game's atmosphere was better with the Stallions versus Maulers. The game was better with the Stallions versus Maulers. And just for what I like doing, I preferred the place overall. The thing with St. Louis is just that, again, once you eliminate the fact that it was in a dome, I can't really think of anything that was much better about the game than it was last year in the USFL Championship game. It's just, it sucks to say, but this was definitely a poor way to end the season. I know a lot of people that, there's a lot of people that watched this game, and that was the first UFL game they ever watched, and there's a good shot they might not be back again because of how bad a game it was. And of course, we're reinforcing the narrative of can literally anybody beat Birmingham? Like, can anyone? We don't know. It kind of is what it is. Again, it was a fun time. I did enjoy going it overall, even though mishap on the way home, even though there was, the game not being great. It was still a fun experience, and I hope that next year it's, in D.C. I know people are like, kind of dream booking that it's going to be at Audi Field. I would love that just so I don't have to drive 10 hours since that's only like a few hours away from me. I know people are thinking it might go back to San Antonio, might go back to Canton. Who knows where it goes? But hopefully somewhere closer. But overall, was it a good experience? Yes, it was fun. Would I say it was as good as Canton? No. It was still a good experience, but the game being a 25-0 shutout really did hurt it. I mean, it's kind of hard not to say that when you go to a game expecting it to be, oh, this is going to be a fun game to watch, to it being like, you're 30 minutes in and you're sitting there like, man, dude, I'm having more fun browsing Twitter, which you should never say, but unironically, part of that game it was. I mean, it wasn't the best game. It was one of the worst games, and that really sucked, especially for it to be the end of the season. I know I thought it was going to be a close game, but I mean, it is what it is. It was still a game that was a good experience. It still is, the first UFL championship. I know other people. I know Strange, even though I didn't get to see him. I know that was his first time going to the championship game. I know he went with, I believe, one of his sons. So that I know. I hope that was a cool experience for them. I know a few other people that I didn't see ended up going to the championship game. So I hope that everybody had a good time, aside from the fact that it was a shutout. Again, the only regret I really have was not doing more at the Fan Fest, even though there's not a ton to do. I definitely regret not doing that impossible kick challenge. Impossible kick, despite the fact that you're shooting a ball out of a cannon for some reason. That's kind of my only real regret at that game. Everything else I kind of am like okay with. I didn't really spend a ton of money on food, just money on merch. Oh, did forget to mention, after the game, I was, once again trying to get something for my wall. As you know, I have the USFL shirt from last year signed by 4 guys, Calvin Tazzino, Chris Blewett, Josh Simmons, and Boogie Roberts. And I did want to do that again. And this is where you definitely see the difference of a team being on the losing side versus the winning side and all that. I did end up getting a Birmingham Stallions game-used towel, and I got it signed by Cole Schneider and Jordan Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have a picture of that up right there. I don't have it framed yet. I gotta, still get one for it, and I don't know where I'm gonna put it behind me. I want to put it behind me, but I don't really have enough room because I have, the Mike Tyson signed photo right there. So where will I put it? I don't know, but it was definitely cool to get that. In hindsight, would have gone to the, edge of the tunnel sooner, and then I would have probably gotten some more people, but it's still a cool thing to have, and again, it's cool. I know 2 people next to me got game-used cleats. I can't remember for the life of me who it was, but they both asked for a cleat, and they got one, which is a really cool thing. Maybe next year I'll get one of those or get something like that. I'd always love to get some sort of game-used memorabilia from the UFL. So that was pretty much the only other thing that happened. Again, I'll have that picture shown up on here. Probably going to get it framed in the next week or 2 and post it on Instagram and Twitter, but don't know for sure when that's going to be. But overall, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I did get a shirt. I did get another towel for myself, like I said, and I got the Steins hat, which I showed on Twitter. So, I got some merch. As I said, I got the rally towel for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway since I got 2 of them. Again, it was a fun experience. I'm not going to say it wasn't. I'm not going to let the thing that happened on the way home from the trip, I'm not going to let the drive itself get in the way. It was a fun trip. It's just, was it as good as Canton? No. Was a lot of that because of the game? Yes. Was a lot of that because of the fact that Canton had, the 2 Hall of Fames to go to? Yes. But it's, you can only do so much. It is what it is. So we'll just see where the game is next year. Hopefully, I'll be able to go to that one as well. Hopefully everything aligns well so I can go back to it again. But we'll see. Overall, this has been ZomFox. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. I'm assuming Monday I'm going to have a video out about the couple of major articles that came out. It might even be Sunday, or I might even do it tomorrow. Within the next 3 days. About the UFL sticking with 8 teams, about the UFL's goal for investors and all that. There's a lot of big info that came out like that right as the season ended. So be on the lookout for that. Again, I have my playoff tier list video coming out. I have a couple other videos already made and others that are going to be made. So I've still got a lot of content to bring you for the off season. So be on the lookout for all of that. And as always, guys, have a great night.